Okay, now tell us the story.
Oh, well,
First of all, she looks beautiful. Does she not look beautiful? She looks beautiful.
Thank you, but I told Alex that if she was going to have me up here sitting like a busted can of biscuits, I was going to take this button and do like this somewhere up in here, pull it down just a little, and now I'm comfortable.
Amen.
But I told her
First of all, that's permission for anyone to unbutton your pants.
Yeah, unbutton your pants. It feels way better. I did not wear spandex, so, okay. But I did tell her earlier, I was like, well, I tried to squeeze into these before I got here, so I had my husband put them on and do squats in them and jump around in the house to try to get them, but they fit him better than me. It worked.
I never thought about that, though. That's genius.
It is.
It's genius. Next time, footage would help, though.
There may be
footage.
some.
Oh, okay. Follow us on social media.
Okay.
But this is Christann. And you know those friends that you have that you're like, when somebody's like, well, how did you guys meet? How'd y'all become friends? And you're like, oh, I don't really know. I don't remember when it started. I know we have tons of friends in common and family and that sort of thing. Oh, you do remember?
I do remember. Okay, so your mom and my mom
yes.
Knew each other for many, many years. And y'all started making baby clothes when Charlie was born.
Yes.
And just over the top. Well,
I can't imagine.
Yeah. So then I was like, oh, I need that. And so then we started doing the monograms with meaning, and then we started chatting randomly, friends on Facebook, and then we met many times at
all the
clothes thingies.
Yeah, I love that.
That's how it started.
Well, that's good to know. I would say the sweetest thing for me, though, was last year at this. Your mom had just recently passed, and you had messaged me because, like, your entire women's ministry was, like, getting a bus or something and coming, and you, as one of the pastor's wives, had not gotten a ticket, and it was sold out. And you messaged me and were like, is there any way I can get a ticket? And you didn't know it at the time, but my mother-in-law had recently passed as well, and I was having a really hard time with her not being here. And it was really the first thing, since I was 15, that she had ever missed of mine. So I was having a really hard time, and then all of a sudden, one day when I was having a really rough day, my husband, it popped up on my phone that I had a ticket sale, and it popped up that my husband had bought one in her name, just to show me that she would be here. And so I had the perfect seat for you, because I knew that she would love that you would get to take her seat. So I love that that's just kind of come full circle for us. So thank you for being here. I'm really excited. There's so much to share, though, so I want to jump in. So when I thought that we were going to talk about grief, when we first had our first interview, I really thought that we would dive in to talk about your mom. But that's not really where the story of grief started. So take a minute and just tell us about Stephen.
Oh, Stephen. So Stephen was, so you ever had that cousin that really wasn't your cousin, that was like a brother? So our family is a very special family. We are like the set up, clean up, lock up of church. And so when I say that he's my cousin, he's more like my child or my little brother or one of those types of people in my life. And he was 20 years old, and he grew up in our youth group. So my husband was a youth pastor for many years now. He's the associate pastor at West End and Social Circle. Shout out to my West End folks. And so Stephen was tragically killed when he was 20 years old. His parents were out of town with my parents, and they were traveling for a marriage conference. He was changing the brakes on his truck, as all good men do, and he had a F-250, and that F-250, him and his friends were changing some brake pads, or what boys do with trucks and whatnot, and he had an injury there, and he succumbed to those injuries. And so that was the first real loss of somebody I'd ever been truly close to.
Yeah.
But in his loss, it was a very low time for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that timing too, the Lord had just called you out of a church that you had been a part of for 30 years. So you were coupling the grief of leaving a church and also dealing with the passing of Stephen.
Yes.
And so you had all of these things kind of combined. Where do you think your faith and your relationship with Jesus was at that point?
Well, I don't think I was at my lowest. I didn't know that I wasn't at my lowest. I felt at my lowest, but for what was to come, that's where I would find a new low. But I still had faith watching my aunt and my uncle go through these things, and our family. And when one of us goes through something, we all go through something, and that's just the kind of family that I have. And with them going through it, we were right there. We were right with them. And my Aunt Sandy's here tonight. That was her son. And I think God I was asking people to pray. I was asking people to support our family and cover us in prayer. And I did not see where we were going at that time. Before I had met my husband in our church, I raised my girls starting in our church. I had been there for 30 years. We had a plan, and this just kind of stopped us in our tracks where we were, and the world looked different. Yeah. It was crushing. I will just use that word and leave it there.
Yeah.
So that was Stephen.
And really, almost a year exactly before Stephen's death, you had suffered a different kind of loss.
Yeah,
what was that?
We suffered a miscarriage about a year before that. We had sold our house, and we were going to Disney World with my sister-in-law, or Disney World. And that's the one in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. She always does our Disney trips, so I just go. And so we were going to do the whole gender reveal, when we got to the castle. And so with that, and then in a new space in our life, in ministry, and then in the loss of Stephen, between these three things, I feel like I'm really getting beat up on here. Like this is we've all put our heart and soul into ministry, and this is feeling real crappy. Can I say crappy?
You can say it.
Okay.
You unbuttoned your pants. So.
Yeah. Do what?
It's that word's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Real bad. It was bad.
So all the grief, all the loss, you're saying that you were crushed. Mm-hmm. I know you're the type of person like, we're just going to push through. We're just going to keep going. Now, looking back, do you regret or feel like you would have changed anything you did to take care of yourself in that season?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you said you were going to ask me some questions.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, hold on. Let me think through it. Say it one more time.
Is there anything you regret or feel like you would have changed about the way you took care of yourself?
Oh, yeah. I would have drawn closer to the Lord than I was. I was very caught up in my own grief and trying to fix my family and trying to fix our circumstances and trying to Band-Aid everything for everybody. And I sort of got lost in that. And with that came a great, overwhelming deal of anxiety, something that was not new to me, but was at a new height for me. I've never been one to really be shy about, telling my story or being authentic, we'll say.
Yeah.
And so I had met a new level of anxiety, which was causing me it was interrupting my life. I work as an ultrasound tech. And so with that, I was noticing that I was having these almost flashbacks, and they were playing kind of like movie reels as I was in the middle of scanning. And then I would realize, like, I drove all the way home and I watched this movie reel, and it was these horrible things that have happened. And I can't keep doing this, and it would throw me into these panic attacks where, people have panic attacks, and then there's panic attacks, like where I would have to call my husband and drive down the road and have to put my arm on the seat, lift my chest up, pick my chest up, and try to grab a deep breath sort of thing and pull over because you feel just absolutely, I don't know if anybody's ever had a panic attack like that, but that's a panic attack, not like, oh my gosh, I'm so panicked. This was starting to interrupt my life. It was an everyday. Yeah. Like a For instance, we had gotten to the point where we were trying to get our head above water. Really, we had just moved into our new congregation, and we were really getting our heads above water. And I was doing some therapy, some counseling, and it was helping, but it wasn't healing. I mean, it was helping. We'll put it that way. And where was I going with that?
Yeah, just what we did about it. You were getting your head above water.
I was getting we were getting our head above water. And do you want me to go into mom now?
Well, I just want to hear, as far as anxiety, what would you have done then?
Well, I didn't do hardly anything for it at that time because I just had sort of the stigma about it, and not a judgmental thing. It was just a thing for me. Like, I'll do the counseling, but I'm definitely not going to take anything at this point. I'm such a happy person. I don't really need these things. This isn't panic attacks. This has to be asthma. This is not, I've got it confirmed 12 times, and she was like, listen, Linda, you have asthma. You don't have asthma, you have anxiety. And I was like, no, I don't think so. I need you to do another asthma test. So I just wasn't. So she finally was just like, okay, here's the thing. If you're not going to take the medicine, then you need to do the counseling. So I did the counseling. Yeah. And that is kind of where I was at that stage. I wouldn't say in my Christian walk, though, I was leaning more on the Lord at that time. I was focused on circumstances and not focusing as much on him as I should have. I wasn't leaning as much on him as I should have. I was focused on fixing. Yeah. I'm a fixer, yeah. You can tell. And
then you kind of came full circle and decided to give medicine a try.
Oh, yes, but that was about 6 months before I found out about mom.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you would have done it sooner, probably.
I would. Oh, absolutely. The 2 L's in my life, Lex Pro and the Lord.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Amen and amen.
I'm just saying, don't knock it till you try it.
Got it.
So
Love it.
I am unashamed. The gospel of Lex Pro.
Good.
So
I love it.
I have, and it's taken a lot for me to get there and to say that out loud, not shamefully.
Yeah.
So.
Amen. I think you probably helped a lot of people just by not
good.
saying it.
I hope so.
I will say, so at this point, grief was super heavy. It was hard. You're trying to get your head above water. But then you're blessed with a full-term pregnancy and a sweet baby girl. Yes. And you're thinking, okay, this is going to be like the joy of all of our lives. Right. And just as close as your family was, it was going to bring happiness and joy and purpose for all of you. And it did for a minute. And then about 3 months in, 3 weeks in, y'all got shook up a little.
So we got pregnant with our daughter, Mila. She was a perfect pregnancy, and we were done. Snip, tied, fried, all the things. Well, she even leaned over during the C-section, and she says, are you sure I told you this? And I was like, we are so sure, because my husband has twin sisters, and we were like, we'll definitely get twin girls if we do this again. So
this is baby girl number 3.
This is baby girl number 3.
Yes.
So we just finished it off. Exactly. Thank you. And so we had Mila Grace Sweat, who is the joy of the century. That child, she is just absolutely wonderful. But we were at the hospital with her, and I just kept telling the doctors that were coming in. I told my husband, every family member, and I even had my friend Abby, who's a nurse, and I had my cousin who works at CHOA, and I was like, y'all got it. Something is weird about this kid. She's just not breathing right. I've had 3 C's. This is my 3rd C-section, and something's weird. And they even came and checked her out multiple times, told me I was just, kind of worried about nothing. We went home. I called my friend Abby, and I was like, get over here now. This kid is breathing so weird, and I don't know what to do. I can't sleep. We're rotating sleep because I'm scared to leave her by herself. So she listened. She's like, I don't know. She just watched her. She was like, yeah, something seems off. And then my Uncle Craig and Aunt Sandy came over that night, and my Uncle Craig was holding Mila like this, and I noticed that her chest was she was just really struggling. And he was like, I've held a lot of kids, but this baby right here is struggling. And he is also our pastor, so he, he has been to the hospital to hold lots of babies, all the things. And so he said, you need to have her looked at. And I was like, thank you. I'm so sure of it. Something is wrong. We went to the doctor the next morning. My grandmom and granddaddy drove me. And if you knew my granddaddy, we were lucky to have made it to the doctor. I had just had a C-section, so I couldn't drive myself, or I would have. And I think he pulled out in front of 18 cars on the way there. And I was like, bless him.
I'm breathing funny now, too.
Yeah. I was like, well, she didn't have a heart problem. She's got one now. So we made it to the doctor, and a friend of mine and Dr. Lisa Miller, she just, she's been she was my doctor when I was young, if that tells you anything. So she goes, my ears are maybe aging a little. I think I hear something. Well, I have a new, which I don't think was any kind of surprise to the Lord. I know for a fact. A girl had just started there named Haley, and she came from the cardiac unit at CHOA. And she had just started that week. What do you know? So she comes in and she goes, you need to go straight to CHOA now. And I was like, why? What's wrong with her? They said it was just a C-section thing. And she said, I'm not 100% sure. I don't have the ability to see what's going on, but I know something is wrong, terribly wrong. So I called my husband at work. I'm like squalling, trying to, something's wrong with her. And I'm going through the whole thing and trying to tell him everything. And he's like, I have no idea what you just said. I need you to calm down, tell me what's going on. And grandmom and granddaddy were with me still. And we're going to go to CHOA. We chose not to go by ambulance. They didn't think it was that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal, but it didn't need to be right that second. And so we headed up there. And when we got there, we thought, okay, this is our brand new baby. We've lost a baby. We've lost a huge portion of our life in ministry. We've lost our Stephen, who is like a balloon. I explained this, and it's like it's filled with water. I was telling somebody this earlier, and it's like somebody took a pencil and just started poking holes, and you're just leaking out from little pieces of yourself. And whenever we got there, my husband, she's on the bed. They didn't even triage us. She was only about 3.5 weeks old at this time. And they didn't even triage. They just took us back, and they had called ahead to tell them what was going on. And thankfully, the girl had, since she was just recently there, had some hookups. She called in a friend. We didn't even wait in the waiting room. We went straight back. She saw us right then and there, and she was like, we need to get x-rays, we need to get a cardiac echo, we need to get all the things. They hooked her up, and she was in pretty bad shape when we got there. She was in heart failure. She had a VSD, and her lungs had backed up with blood, and they were saying that she's in pretty severe heart failure. And my husband just looked at me like, what did he just say? I'm sorry, this kid is perfectly fine. She's a perfect baby. I don't feel like she's in heart failure. Well, then he pulls up the x-ray, and here's her little body and her giant heart. And so we're like, I'm not taking, notes here, but I'm thinking like, absolutely not. Like, you cannot have her. Like, this is not happening. This one is mine. I'm keeping her. She is it. She's all we have right now. She is our hope. She was the hope at that time.
Yeah.
And so with Mila, we were actually discharged. We saw the most wonderful cardiac surgeon. He was like, we're not going to do surgery right now. We're going to put you on some Lasix, pull all these things off. And I was like, okay, so, all right. This, you know what, God, you've got us this far. Let's do this. Like, I'm gonna give this to you. Like I didn't have a choice, but I was,
Sure.
Here.
Sure.
This is yours. And you're gonna heal her, and I know that you will.
Yeah.
And so that's where we were, and we were believing that with our church family and our family, and we were all praying. I was all in, and I was like, you know what? We've already had our bad time.
Sure.
Now it's Mila. Mila's gonna be our happy thing.
Yeah. So you think that you're on the side of like, okay, we've done the loss thing,
Mm-hmm.
and you're kind of having this conversation with the Lord, like, we're done with that.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have a different outcome here.
Right.
And you feel like, okay, I see the light. It's turning that way.
Mm-hmm.
And something hit you guys that you never saw coming.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay.
take us through like February through April of what happened and the boom that came with the diagnosis.
Okay. So with Mom, like I said before, I'm an ultrasound tech, and I do anything from internal medicine to babies. I probably scanned some of your babies in here or have worked at your doctor's office in this areas, but with doing that, it was COVID. So she was born in 2019, and the year switches over, and you know how everything went haywire at the beginning of COVID. Everybody was scared of everything, and a lot of the doctor's offices had started shutting down from doing inside testing. And so that was a lot of days off for me. I was not doing as much work, and my mom's doctor, who is just her internal medicine doctor and our family practice doctor, he calls, and we have an account with him, and he says, "Hi, this is Doctor," and he said, "There's two things that I want to ask you about. They're either two things. I did your mom's labs, and she either is an undercover alcoholic or something terrible is wrong." And I was like, "Listen, we can't even say crap in front of my mom. This lady is not an alcoholic. I will bet my life on it, and I just know that's not it." He said, "Okay, I'm going to get you an order. I need you to," he said, "I need you to go to her office." My mom worked for a surgeon for 32 years, and I need you to go to her office, take the machine, I'll get you an order, scan her, find out what's going on. And I was like, I'm thinking, this can't be that bad. She's probably, maybe a little fatty liver or something like that. Yeah. Nothing. And as soon as I put the probe down, she had a greater than 8 centimeter, almost 9 centimeter mass on her adrenal gland. This is called adrenal cortical carcinoma. Immediately, I knew it was so large that I couldn't tell if it was connected to her liver or if it was connected to her kidney, where it was coming from. I just couldn't tell. She could tell by the look on my face, and usually I'm good at hiding that with patients, but this was my everything right here. So I hit the good old internet, hit up every radiologist, that friend of mine, and I'm like texting out this picture. That might be might not be able to do that, but I did. And so I sent out that picture, blasted it to my radiologist friends, and I'm saying, how bad is this? Be honest, how bad is this? And they were like, that should have come out yesterday. That should have come out a month ago. That should have come out 2 years ago. I don't know how long it's been there, but it's bad. So immediately we called in a surgeon from Piedmont, and at this time, I'm like, absolutely not, because my radiologist is saying, this is bad, Christann, this is pretty bad. And I'm just telling the Lord, absolutely not. You healed Mila. Let's do this again. Our family cannot take anything else. No, you cannot have her. And so we got to Piedmont, Atlanta. They did the surgery during the height of COVID, y'all. I mean, this is what is it, Sandy, March or something I think it was March when they did the surgery. Lori, one of y'all two are here. My mom's sisters are here. And they did the surgery where they got good pathology report. They got good borders, and they're saying, hey, this is great. We don't need to do anything else. She is cancer-free. And I'm like, that sounds like a load, because that was a massive tumor, and I'm not here for that. I think we need to do and I even told, we were in the car with my Aunt Lori, I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And so we wait, we're going to follow. And if you know my dad's like, hey, doctor said it must be true. So we're listening.
Yeah.
And Mom's like, I'm just not going to lose my hair, so we're not going to do chemo if it's unnecessary, because she had beautiful hair.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you feel like everyone's pretty optimistic at this point. You have a little bit of a growling inside of you thinking, I'm unsettled. But there's optimism here. You think things are going well. And then there was a follow-up scan.
Yeah, so I really did feel optimistic because of how it played out with her oncologist. I felt like, okay, if he's saying, I mean, I'm out of my realm here. I see the masses and then I pass them off to somebody else usually, but I can't pass her case off to somewhere else. So what my brain and the control freak that I have to be in this sort of situation is where I'm going to look up everything on the internet. I'm going to look up every case study I can find. I'm going to research it, whether it costs me all of my brain cells and all of my sleep. I'm going to do it. And I did that. And there was just not a lot of hope with this cancer. And I didn't want to be a downer to my family, but I just said, I don't see that being the case. But if they know more than I do. Okay.
Then the scan comes and it pretty much confirms your fears.
Yeah, so about a little over a month, couple months, she had her follow-up scan, and they said, so it looks like that the pathology report wasn't right, and it looks like that when we did the surgery to take this out, it looks like somebody took like a shotgun, and it looks like little BBs in her chest, and this cancer is just all in her lungs. And it's spread at this point, and we are thinking, okay, like so many people have lung cancer, and they beat it, all right? So now we're on the adrenal gland, that's gone. We can beat a little lung cancer. Our friend Lulu, who's here, she beat her lung cancer. We got this. We're gonna do this.
Yeah.
And so we're being optimistic, but there's this little thing in me that's saying, there's this small chance that like you could be 30 years old and not have your mom.
Yeah.
Or 32, I'm sorry. I'm making myself younger.
Yeah.
But
So it comes back not great, and I wish we could hit on every detail,
Yeah.
but there was just a big roller coaster of ups and downs.
Oh, gosh.
Treatments that worked, treatments that didn't. She gets COVID, but she does well with that. She's in the hospital, and I know that we're not paying honor to all of the things that you guys went through that. But now at this point, you guys are in the hospital because of circumstances with her body. Her body is shut down, and it wasn't even because of the cancer. It was because of her blood, basically, and the organs had stopped working, and it was basically poisonous. So now she's in a coma, and it happened like that.
yes, it did. I was actually at work, and we had recently just had Easter, and she went to her first Easter she wore her wig and everything. She was so excited to like have it on, and she started saying some funny things. Like I think one of the things she was telling my aunt, which is a little bit funny, they were sitting at chemo together, and she goes, "They're talking about me over there." And my aunt was like, "Who's talking about you?" She said, "The nurses, they don't like the dinner we brought them." And my aunt was like, "We didn't bring them dinner." So she thought maybe they gave her Benadryl or something to rest during chemo, and she's just saying some random things. And it didn't hit us until he said, "All right, I'm not liking the way she's talking. So she went to the hospital. We're in the hospital now, and we found out that she has a clot that runs all the way from her heart all the way down to her kidney. Well, when they did this scan, of course, they say, okay, well, this is kind of bad. It's not just the clot. Now her cancer is in her lungs, her lymph nodes. It's on her kidney. It's in her liver. It's all these things. And we're talking about, the matter a little over a year. My mom was 50 years old, y'all. And it may not seem like, so everybody can't relate, I guess, to the kind of mom I had. But some of you can. And I hope that you had the kind of mom that I had. But when I say that I had the best mom, I had a pretty wonderful mom. Like, she was I can't explain her. She was just the greatest. She was my best friend, and what we call like a frenemy. So the friend that will, she was like the one who will put you in your place, and then walk away and be like, "Hey, do you want to go have lunch?" Like right after she tells you what you need.
Yeah.
Because moms are like that. They'll just be honest, and then they'll be like, "Your clothes don't match." Or
Yeah.
You need a haircut.
100%.
Yeah, like, "Did you brush your teeth this morning?" I was
Yeah.
like, 32.
So you feel like your world's kind of crashing because you thought you were going to have more time with her. Even if this thing in you that felt like the cancer she might end up succumbing to the cancer. You felt like you had time with her, but now it just happened in a flash that she's in a coma. Now the doctor's coming in and they're asking you to talk about end of life. And you're just thinking, that can't happen. Take us. You wouldn't leave the hospital. She was inside ICU in this coma for 10 days. You wouldn't leave the hospital. You would sleep in a waiting room. You would sleep in your car. I want you to take us to the passenger seat of that car when you had reached the end of your rope and you realized that your mom might die in that moment and what your relationship was like with the Lord. And I think we'll hear it if you just take us to the car.
Okay. So when I told Alex the story, I was telling her that we had kind of been rotating with Mom in the hospital, and when her brain became toxic, so she had encephalitis, and the doctor basically told us when he left, he said, I'm leaving for the weekend, and when I come back, we're going to have a hard conversation, and we got to figure out what to do. It's been too long, and, we're going to have a hard conversation. And I was like, no. She was fine. She was just at Easter. She was just talking like she's totally fine. She'll be fine from this. She's going to wake up from this. This is just like I'm Googling and doing all the research on it here and figuring out, calling all my doctor friends, like, what can we do? And he's like, when your liver is that toxic, it affects your brain, and it's up to your body how much you're able to fight. And so my dad and I had kind of been rotating, my aunts and my grandparents, like we were all in rotation mode with Mom. She's not conscious at all. And he's coming back on Monday. He left on Thursday, the doctor, and then on Saturday, I believe it was, that Saturday, I had enough. They had done our church had come out, and there was a courtyard at the bottom of where her window was, and they were praying. Our church was doing a prayer time for her, and I think it was either my husband or my dad or somebody, and they were like, you're not going to come down and pray with us? And I was like, nope. I had asked everybody in our whole family, and asked our church, and asked our Sunday school class, and asked all my people, like, please pray for my mom. But I had no words to pray for her because I was just so angry that this could not be her. Like, we're talking about a lifetime in ministry, and this is how you're repaying. This felt like very personal. Like, how could this happen to her above all the people? Like, we have had our fair share. Pass it on. Like, pass the baton to somebody else now. We've already done this. And I get out to the car, and at this point, I'm just telling my dad, I just need to go get a couple hours of sleep because I'm not here for it today. I go out to the car, and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And I just turned the seat around, and as I'm telling Alex this story, I feel that true, like, emotion of me being in the car. And I just turned, I have a Pathfinder, and so I turning my seat around, and I turned it around, and I got kind of on all fours like I wanted to pray, but instead of praying, what came out of me was just such anger. I was so angry. I was just beating on the back of my seat saying, God, you cannot have her. She is mine. My kids need her. I need her. Her sisters need her. We need her. My dad needs her. She's too young. She's 50. You cannot have her. All these things have already happened to our family. I'm done with that. No, you can't have her. And I'm just going, and I'm like, I feel like when I talk about it now, I'm like, that was so ugly to speak to God that way. But at that time, that is where God met me at my lowest point. I think I had just come to the point where I didn't even know how to talk to him about it. And I was so angry that I spoke through anger and tears, and I just left it there that night. And I was like, God, if you just let me have her, let her wake up from this, you can have her. You can have her, but let her wake up from this so I can at least talk to her. She doesn't deserve to die this way. She didn't even get to say the things. We didn't get to have this conversation and tell my kids bye. And I know so many people that don't get to do that, but in this moment, I was finally asking God, please come to where I am because I need this. I need this. And I even drove that same day before. I was so frustrated. My aunt worked at a doctor's office down the street, and I drove Brent's truck over there. That's my husband. And I just sat there, and I just squalled and I was angry and I was like, why is this happening? Why us? Like, why is my mom dying? Why is this happening to me? I felt like such a victim in the moment. And it's a very victim mentality, yeah. And so I had this conversation with God and I'm like, you know what? I finally just kind of, my heart settled on this. You can have her if you just let her wake up from this and let me talk to her. Let her tell us why. And okay, so I'm leaving it there. And honestly, something in my heart changed that day. Before that, I had just not really been in a place where I was okay. I didn't have a worship bone in my body at that moment because I was so hyper-focused on my situation and my circumstances and not on what God wanted me to be focused on was him. When we're at our low, he wants us to draw to him, and that is just not where I was at that moment. And I kind of got out of the car that night, and I felt like these chains almost, this burden on my shoulders, this like horrible mentality of you've done this to us. I just felt like everything's going to be fine. And I really didn't truly know that, but that was what I was having faith in.
And you feel at that moment that even though you felt like you couldn't talk to God before that, you didn't have the words, that what now almost seems hard for you to say, that you talked to him with such anger. It was almost like he just wanted you to talk to him.
Yeah.
And you felt that. Let it go.
I know it.
To fast forward through so much good parts, but I'm going to say she did wake up from her coma. Yes. She sang a sweet, sweet song, and you did get more time with her.
Absolutely.
You got her answer. She wanted to go to the beach one more time with her family. You guys got to do that. On the way home, you did arrange hospice for her for when she got home. And then in August, she did go to be with the Lord.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you, as far as her emotions and feelings throughout the diagnosis, throughout fighting, and then ultimately in her passing, how did she approach and feel about going to be with the Lord?
So anybody who knows my mom, there was zero, mom, okay, so I thought much about this question and how it might play out, but my mom was not scared to die and go to heaven. She was scared to leave her family about all the things that were left undone, about me raising my 3 girls without her here to see these things, my dad and how he would cope with her loss, and all the little things, how my grandparents would be, how her sisters would be, how my brother would be, who had just recently gone through a divorce, and she was in the middle of just helping him through those things. And there were so many aspects. I feel like she felt like there were so many things unfinished, but she was not afraid to meet her Lord and Savior. Like, that was not even on the radar.
Yeah.
She was afraid closer to the end just about leaving us. Yeah. And I would say that she had the strength that gave us strength to trust that.
How do you think her perspective about just how undoubtedly she knew where she was going, that she was ready to meet Jesus and she knew she would, do you think that seeing her believe that and know that and ultimately die in that has changed your life?
100%. It affects the way that I parent. It affects the way that I live my life. Now, I have not arrived, y'all. The grief is not that thing that you just, I'm so healed. It is just, it stays with you, and you just have to wake up and you put these one foot in front of the other. And with Mom's diagnosis, she wasn't affected by that spiritually. She was affected by it mentally, and how it has affected me is the biggest gift that you could ever give your children or ever give your family is, I've heard people say it like this, is have them preach their own funeral by living that life. And for her to have lived that life of an amazing Christian wife and mother and just servant of God, she lived it in a way that inspired me to be that mom, that wife, that spiritual leader for my friends and my family. And for Mom, she just had such a we are a lot alike in that way. She had a joke for just about everything, even until like the very end. She was trying her best to make jokes about things, but overall, she had the greatest mentality, and that's what, if somebody was going to leave their family in that kind of way, I would say that's the greatest gift that you can give them, is for your kids and your husband and your family to know that you're saved and you're going to heaven and you're happy about it, and it's exciting, and you're excited to meet your Maker.
Wow.
So
That's a legacy, for sure.
Yeah.
And I can see her in you, and she would be so proud of you and what you did tonight and the hope that you gave ladies. And I know grief is unending, but there are days that are better than others. And I know all days that you feel him beside you are the better ones. So thank you for being here and sharing your story, guys. Help me thank Christann.
Thank y'all.